Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. We'll have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, join us here momentarily. Then we're going to have back by people wanting more of Dr. Pete Indelicato. So we'll have Dr. Pete get your questions for him in the second portion of today's show. Gators host Auburn. Auburn blasted Alabama. Not surprised at all, as I told JC that Alabama would lose at Auburn. Auburn will struggle in the O'Connell Center. I think the Gators will win. Yesterday was National Signing Day. Not a whole lot going on. So let's go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, and we're joined by our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Shane, doing pretty good. Well, good to be on with you. It's just a amazing time of year where, unfortunately, everything but signing day was emphasized yesterday. So our signing day now is basically in December. That's what it amounts to. I mean, there were still a few guys who signed yesterday, but basically signing day is in December now. So to put it mildly, a lot of stuff changed in college football, hasn't it, Shane?
Yeah, it has. A lot of kids around the country did sign yesterday, small colleges or what have you. So congratulations to them, but it's nothing like what it used to be. Josh has a question for you, Brent, here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. He says, can you ask Brent how many SEC schools and other big out-of-conference programs have set up an NFL general manager like personnel department, how Florida has?
I don't know the number, but that is something that you're seeing more and more of. It used to be the fact that we never really had that at all. That would be fascinating. I don't know if we have the numbers for that yet, but we're beginning to see more schools kind of set up a NFL-like structure, and with the reality for that is you're getting a GM to hopefully take some of the burden off your head coaches, and that's one of the reasons you've got one. So I'll say this: we're not sure of the number, but it is increasing every year.
Yeah. I mean, Florida's not the only one doing it for sure. Brent, from a viewing standpoint, there a bunch of companies, ESPN, Fox, and others are joining forces. And are we going to be paying for all these services, or what's going on?
Yeah, at some point, we don't really know a lot of the details, but ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers have announced a joint venture. Now, the key thing here is it's a new streaming sports service that's going to feature, basically all the major sports: NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, NASCAR, college sports, PGA Tour, college games, or from the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, Big East, SEC, college football playoffs. So, again, Shane and I have talked about this for months. The streaming end of this is going to pick up and get bigger and bigger, involving more money. So that's something we're going to see coming. It was announced a few days ago. Shane, I think some of this is so that some of these entities can survive, frankly. I mean, ESPN has lost people, frankly, and they've cut the cord for years. So I think that's probably going to help them. I mean, it's not like ESPN doesn't have any money, but they've also lost a lot of money over the last few years too. So when we don't know a lot of details. I just wanted people to be aware of that this is something that's been announced this week. If you missed it, and it's going to be frankly fascinating to see where this is going to go. And to your question, Shane, oh yeah, if we want it, we'll have to pay for it one way or another, won't we?
Yeah, probably so. There's no question about that. We got a lot of people here talking about, I guess they listened to Billy's press conference yesterday. I did not. So y'all will have to fill me in. It says Ted seems like Graham Hall asked Billy my question about special teams, but he gave a no answer thought. Then somebody asked about who's going to be calling the shots on defense since we have a defense coordinator and a head coach of defense. It's Austin. Look, people get too caught up in titles. All these titles mean is another way to make more money.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you don't get caught up in titles, people. Trust me. Just because somebody says they're the offensive coordinator, they ain't calling the plays. Just like all those years people thought Eric Bieniemy called plays for the Chiefs, he ain't never called one damn play. It was Andy Reid. Okay.
Yeah.
Barone has a question here on Facebook Live brought to you. Oh, no, this is YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Is it me or does Napier talk about the preferred walk-on program more than any other head coach before him? I also don't recall programs like Bama, Georgia, LSU, et cetera, constantly speaking about preferred walk-ons. I don't know the answer to that. I know that I think a lot of people don't understand how important for a football program to have walk-ons. A football program cannot survive without at least 40 walk-ons.
Yeah, true.
And it's some of my closest friends were walk-ons. And I have the utmost respect for them because 99.9% of them never play a snap. Nobody knows about them, but they're the ones that do everything at practice to help the team. So I don't know the answer to that, Barone, but I know it's important, extremely important for walk-ons to be a part of your program. Brent, the NIL, which is a big topic week in and week out, you have some stuff here about some of the recruits spoke out about how much money they're going to make.
Yes. Chris Hummer, I'll give credit where it's due, and this comes from 24/7. They ask about 15 different recruits without giving their names. Tell us how much money that you're making. Well, and they got a lot of various answers. I won't go into all of them, but some of them are: recruit 1 got $350,000 a year. Recruit 3 got $120,000 a year. Recruit 6 got $72,000 a year. Recruit 9 around $1 million. Recruit 10 a few $1,000s a month. Around $200,000 is recruit 13. Okay, the reason that we've included that is hear a lot about everybody's making $1 million. Well, they're not. That's a thing that we see more every day. Is a lot of these numbers are over exaggerated because I think sometimes the kids just get embarrassed about what they're making, and they want it to seem to be more than what they're making. So just to throw this out here, that this was an anonymous survey, and they got a lot of various answers. Shane, I don't know if that surprises you or not. With that,
I guess I mean I don't know if a lot of those kids, even though it was anonymous, they probably were hesitant about saying exactly what they're making.
Right.
Because I know several that are making close to $1 million or more than $1 million a year, but good for them. Good for them. But the NIL is something else.
Yes.
Brent, the SEC and the Big Ten, can you kind of give us the cliff notes of what the hell's going on?
Yeah, both the SEC and the Big Ten have basically decided that they are going to form a committee, and they're going to look at a lot of the issues that they wish the NCAA would have dealt with, but really is just too cumbersome to be able to do that. So look, there's a lot of speculation here that the reason they're doing this is to eventually have their own conference, and this would be a mega conference with all the teams. Now, this is not going to happen overnight, but there's certainly a lot of speculation that might happen because they are tired and that they want the majority of the money. And frankly, when you look at the money now, the Power 5 conference or Power 4 conferences now are getting 80% of the money involved with the college football playoff. The non-Power 5s are getting 20%. So that certainly is tilted in the favor of the Power 5s with this. But Greg Sankey and the new Big Ten commissioner are on board with this. They have been meeting. I think there's also going to be further expansion that's coming up. Right now, they're going to look at this as that they're just getting together, looking at plans, trying to fix some issues with NIL, trying to fix some issues with roster management and so forth that they're not getting elsewhere. They're not doing this by accident, and I think they've been meeting a lot longer than actually what they have been admitting at this point. So now to go along with this, the College Football Committee and the commissioners met earlier this week in Dallas. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do in the future beyond. See, they pretty well know what they're going to do in 24-25. They don't know what they're going to do beyond that. And part of the holdup here is that the Pac-12, which is now basically the Pac-2, and I know they've got some affiliation with the West Coast Conference and Oregon State and Washington State, or kind of the holdup with this. It's got to be unanimous. So they're still trying to figure that out. And look, I know a lot of this stuff is confusing as to where it could go. But frankly, this is the beginning of the end for a lot of the amateur status that we're going to have, or the NCAA still wants to have, and we're going to follow this very closely. And I can get into it further, but just to give you a cliff notes, that's kind of what's happened this week. That this has started, and it's going to morph into a whole lot more than just an advisory committee.
Yeah, Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service by providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We got Brent Beaird, college football analyst, on the Take Number hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. We have Dr. Pete Indelicato. Get your questions for Dr. Pete ready. Brent, this note here makes me laugh. Florida's Rob Sell and Ole Miss's Charlie Weiss Jr. are the SEC's longest-serving offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
And neither one of them call plays.
That's right. Yeah, but at least it's with the title anyway. Yeah, that's very. But I mean, what does that really tell you at this point, as far as how long offensive coordinators have been with their teams? I mean, both have served for 2 seasons, and this is basically just someone who is looking at the coaching rosters and went back to be able to figure this out. So what that's telling you is of all the changes that we have in coordinators in the league, never fails to amaze, does it, Shane?
No. Tim's Facebook Live comment says Mert staying in college, he's embarrassed he's making more than he would in the NFL. I don't know what that means. I think Graham Mertz will be in the NFL a long time as a backup.
Yeah, agree.
So anyway, let me see. We got a couple of texts here on the Titan Mart text line for questions, I think, for you, Brent. Let me get to them real quick. Daryl says, "Good morning, guys. Brent, the Dr. Pepper commercial is spot on. The transfer portal is out of control."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
pretty
don't know if I've
funny.
seen.
Yes.
I haven't seen that yet. Um, anyway, a lot of people here are criticizing Billy's press conference yesterday. I was busy all day. I didn't have time to listen to it. And they say he never says anything. Joseph says, when asked if Florida has what it takes to compete with Georgia and Alabama in NIL, Napier's response was, "I think the situation is always fluid." Well, we don't. I'll answer for him. We don't. There. I said it. I said it for Coach. He has to. He can't answer that publicly. He
Right.
can't say no. We don't have the funds that they had. That just does not look good. Sometimes coaches are gonna beat around the bush. Trust me, whether it's Billy Napier or whoever it may be. Brent, what do you think about? We got some questions here. Saban going to work for ESPN.
Yeah, that was announced yesterday. He is going to be at on game day is what it's going to be. I was told years ago that Saban's had a contract offer from ESPN on his desk for basically for years to join ESPN when he retired, and that's what he has decided to do. That will be fascinating. I mean, look, he will upgrade game day considerably.
Yeah, you know what's going to be interesting with him on there, Brent. How critical will he be towards other coaches?
Yes,
You know,
yes, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I agree with that.
I heard
Yes,
Charles Barr. I was watching the Alabama Auburn game, and Barkley went during the game with Jimmy Dykes and Ravitch, and
yes,
they were just talking about the Alabama Auburn rivalry, and then they started talking about him going into TV, what advice he would give Nick Saban. He's like, "Look, Nick, you're going to have to be critical of some of your buddies.
right,
You
right.
know, that's what the fans want to hear, what you would have done or what have you." So it's not easy when you've never been in that role, but he will be definitely good to have on set. I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be at college game day or if he's going to be in the studio or where he's going to be.
No, he is going to be on the desk with them at game day. Yeah. Now, as you know, they move Lee Corso in and out, depending on what the segment's all about. So, but I'm guessing that when I understand that will be his role. He will be there. Now, again, this is discussion on another day, but it will be interesting to see what they're going to do with Corso. Because his role is kind of reduced more every year. That could have a lot to do with the positioning on the desk and so forth. So, but no, that is my understanding that he will be with game day. I can't imagine them not using him in another way on a football Saturday. Maybe they move him to the studio or whatever they do. I don't know how that's going to be, but if you've got a guy like that, you've got to use his talent.
Yeah, for sure. Around the SEC, Alabama had a pretty good day yesterday. I didn't realize. I think it's the kid from Saraland, the wide receiver. I can't remember
Yes.
his name. I didn't know he was the number one receiver in America. I thought it was the Jeremiah Smith kid that went to Ohio State, but this kid supposedly was the top-rated wideout in America, correct?
Yeah, he's 5-star. His name is Ryan Williams. He was the two-time Mr. Football in the state of Alabama and a Gatorade Player of the Year. They thought he was originally going to Auburn, or he decommitted when Nick Saban retired, and then he got back on board. So he officially signed yesterday, and so did Noah Carter, who is an edge rusher. He signed yesterday too. Georgia was number 1 in most of the recruiting rankings. Alabama was number 2. So we'll get into the rankings a little bit later on, but that's how it finished.
Auburn, there's a lot of talk out of Auburn. I guess the fans, the media, the chat boards, they're upset with Hugh Freeze for not trying to find a quarterback.
Right.
I guess they're going to have like tryouts and see how the spring game goes and then go back into the portal if they need to.
Possibly. Yeah. Now the portal opens again April 16th through 30th. So there's a chance if someone's available that they may do that. But you're right. Freeze has been criticized that basically saying Peyton Thorne's his guy. Look, Peyton Thorne's is a decent quarterback. I don't think he's spectacular by any means. So we'll see how he improves. See if he gets anyone else. I mean, they've got a quarterback room, and they've got some younger guys who have played a little bit. But Thorne is by far their best option at this point. But yes, Freeze has gotten his share of criticism for not going out and getting another quarterback in the portal.
All right, what's going on in Gainesville that you can tell us?
Well, I was sad to hear Bill Carr's death. The former player and athletic director. I got to know him a little bit and had a lot of respect for Bill and what he had done. I did see this number, and I credited it to Saturday Down South about Florida needing to stop the run, and I'm sure that will be a real emphasis during the spring of allowing 4.84 yards per carry. But by the way, that's the highest number that before Steve Spurrier came back in 1990. So, and again, Billy Napier's made some changes in the personnel department. A lot of folks probably don't know these names, and I won't get into all of it. But I mean, he has done that. I do appreciate what he did with the special team situation that needed to be addressed, and they were able to do that. Also, a couple of other guys that I want to mention. They really like this quarterback Ryan Montgomery, and he has been back to Florida on a visit. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But it's not like they're not doing anything. Frankly, I mean, they are bringing in some players, some that our listeners probably don't, that they either don't know a whole lot about, or they even if you get someone from a smaller school, they still can play, and teams know that. So to be aware of that, where that is. So there's an offensive lineman, Peyton Joseph, from Warner Robins, that I think Florida's in on that with some other schools. So that may be a name to watch out for in the next few days.
Kentucky, we all know that Liam Cohen is going to the Bucks. Have they announced who their new offense coordinator is going to be, or they're still searching?
Nope, they're still searching right now. Cohen's been there twice. Obviously, was there this previous year. It didn't work out like they think it would. It was going to. He came back from the NFL. Now he's back in the NFL. So no, that's still up in the air to see where that's going to go.
The Missouri Tigers got a nice little donation to renovate their stadium and also to their NIL fund.
Yeah, this is very significant for Missouri. They got a record $62 million gift. Now, I believe whoever gave it it's an anonymous gift. So that is tremendous. The money for the stadium, the money for their fund. I've got my note here for some context on the $12 million. The top level NIL collective spent 8 to 12 million. So it kind of depends on what report you read on the money, frankly. But look, that tells me that the program is headed in the right direction. People have confidence in Eli Drinkwith, and they had a tremendous year last year. And several of those guys, Brady Cook, for instance, are coming back. Luther Burden is coming back. So I'm not saying they're going to be as good and win double-digit games, but that they have made some significant improvement, Shane, to that program.
Yeah, so 50 million is going to their stadium renovations, and 12 million is going to their NIL. So, and as you said, that's a lot of money for their NIL for sure.
Really is.
Tennessee, what's the latest on the reports, the investigations and stuff coming out of Knoxville?
Well, they're still trying to figure this out. I have heard that Tennessee, and maybe they have by now, have not even received a notice of allegations from the NCAA. So we will see. I know there's been several lawsuits that have been filed with Tennessee and Virginia, both. They have been in there too. A lot of folks think this may be a lot to do about nothing. My understanding was it had something to do with Nico Lamaliva being on a plane and how they got him back and forth, private jet. As the NCAA is looking at this, to Tennessee people, from the governor to state officials to obviously the school, that they're pushing back. The thing we're seeing now is people have figured out when the NCAA accuses you of something, you can either cooperate or you can push back. And a lot of people now are pushing back, and they're even suing the NCAA to try to get them to back off. And the NCAA is trying to reinvent themselves and trying to be the big boy on the block like they used to be in enforcement, and that is just not there right now. So we will continue to follow that one. But look again, unless something's changed, and I don't think it has, this investigation will probably still take a year to year and a half before anything is settled with it, if it's settled at all, because you still got that timetable with the NCAA. So just a lot of mitigating factors in here that make this real complicated.
All right, last thing before we get you out of here, Brent. Is there only one opening in Power 5 football right now at Boston College?
Yeah, I believe that. I'll have to double check that, but I believe that's about it. Bill O'Brien, obviously, who's with Ohio State now, is a possibility to get that job. But and I heard that he was the overwhelming candidate, and then I heard that it was 50-50. So, but what I do understand is that they are going to have a few more interviews, and they're going to they want to wrap this up by the weekend.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think you're going to continue to see more college coaches heading to the National Football League. Give us a few nuggets before we get you out of here.
Well, we're always glad to be able to do that. I know this is not football, but Mike Martin, the FSU baseball coach, there's going to be a public memorial service Saturday in the baseball stadium. And then after that, they're going to have a baseball scrimmage. Florida State's added Amari Williams. He's a 4-star to the recruiting class, 6'4", 215. He's an edge rusher. So that will be interesting to see how that goes. Miami has got Gaston County, Havana, offensive lineman Lamar Williams, 6'7", 280. They have picked him up. Also, by the way, Charlie Partridge is really a good defensive line coach, and the Colts are hiring him. Back to the point you made a minute ago, there are several, I'm not saying there's a flood, but there are several assistant coaches in college football who have decided to go to the NFL. I think some of them have gone just to let some of this stuff calm down, is what it amounts to, Shane. So, but we will continue to follow all of it and to kind of see where it goes. But but keep your eye on this SEC Big Ten situation. That's going to have all kinds of ramifications for the future of college football.
Yeah, and Clint asked here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. QB, your stance is Mertz will be a solid backup in the NFL. Do you think he could fall into a situation like Brock Purdy, smart, accurate, and tough? You see anything in Purdy that Mertz does? Yeah, I think they're the same player.
Yeah, good point.
Very, very smart, extremely accurate. Graham's a lot bigger than Purdy though. So anyway, Brent, great stuff as always, my man. We'll talk to you next week.
Good. Always enjoy it, bud. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Take a quick timeout. We come back, get your questions ready for Dr. Pete Indelicato. If you got any ailments or anything that hurts us old folks, we can ask Dr. Pete the best way to go about fixing it. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. We're now going to go back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, and we're joined again because so many people wanted him back. Dr. Pete Indelicato. Dr. Pete, what's happening, my man?
Not too much. Enjoying the cool weather, playing a little golf.
Well, tell us who you played golf with the last couple of days.
The head ball coach.
And who won? What did y'all play for? Did y'all play for a beer?
$5.
$5.
I beat him 2 days ago, and he took the $5 back yesterday with this big smile on his face.
Big 9-hole match between you fellas. So that had to be a lot of fun.
I know. I actually almost shot my age.
On 9 holes?
No, 18.
I was going to say, that ain't good, Doc.
Yeah, I shot an 80.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very good. All right, Doc, we got a bunch of text here on the Titan Mark text line already for you. And this is a great question because I don't know why it's called this, but you hear players who are missing a game or injured or whatever because they have turf toe. Explain what turf toe is, because it really has nothing to do with the damn artificial turf, right?
Well, it used to, but basically because uh, the artificial the artificial turf and the shoes that athletes wore on the artificial turf had too much flexibility in the sole of the shoe, so the toe of the shoe would bend too far up. It wasn't stiff enough, and as a result, the bottom of your big toe suffered torn tissue, um, and that got the term turf toe. It's a torn tissue, connective tissue at the bottom of your big toe. And for many athletes in football, particular down linemen and linebackers, it can really affect the effectiveness of their push off.
And it seems like another foot injury. I've had it before, and I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but plantar fasciitis.
Yeah,
Is that have anything to do with turf toe or just two separate
they're
injuries?
two separate things. One is caused by trauma being a hyperextension of your big toe. The plantar fasciitis is due to microscopic repetitive trauma, where the fascia on the sole of your foot is very tight, and as a result, over the course of time, develops microscopic tearing at the heel and becomes a source of pain.
Yeah, and I never understood because every time I had that, whether I was playing or if it just flared up in the off season, the trainer's like, "Well, just get a golf ball
Yeah.
or a frozen water bottle and just roll it on the bottom of your feet." And I mean, it hurt like hell, but I guess that's the best way to rehab it.
Yeah, what you're trying to do, and basically this is kind of an interesting situation, is that plantar fascia is a sheet of tissue that attaches to your heel bone, and you get a partial tearing of that fascia, and that's what causes the pain over the course of time. What's interesting is that some people inadvertently like miss a step, either going up the stairs or stepping off a curb, and they completely tear that fascia.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the pain that they were dealing with for the last 6 months, in 3 or 4 days, goes away. So, what a lot of people do surgically when you're dealing with a chronic plantar fasciitis is go in and just release through a very tiny incision the remainder of that plantar fascia. And 3 or 4 days later, they start feeling better. So if you have a guy that at the beginning of a season comes up into your office or into the training room with really a painful plantar fasciitis, rather than try and manage it over the course of the impending season, it's probably better just to take him to the OR, do what you have to do there, and within a week, 80-90% of the pain is gone, and it'll continue to improve after that.
Interesting. I wasn't even aware of that. 1966 HBC beer is available at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the O-Dome, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager. That's 1966 HBC beer. We got Dr. Pete on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Dan on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, says, Dr. Pete, you got any good Bill Carr stories?
Wow. What a great man. Actually, he only lived about 3 or 4 blocks from where I used to live, in a place called the Hermitage. Just a great gentleman. I mean, I don't think he ever had a sip of alcohol in his life. This is what Coach told me the other day. He never drank. even though it was his roommate. He
with,
hardly
with
ever
his
went out.
with his crazy college roommate.
His crazy college roommate. Uh, he always treated me with a whole lot of respect. He gave me a whole lot of freedom uh, to develop the sports medicine program for the University Athletic Association, and a lot of support. I used to talk to him at the Gator Quarterback Club. We were both members here this past couple of years, and he's going to be missed. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon. When you have a total knee replacement, what is the most important place to ice, the top or the bottom? Probably both, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you should circumferentiate the whole knee. It's the ice on the front of your knee is closer to the nerve endings because there's less soft tissue between the skin and the nerves. But I would suggest, wrapping the knee circumferentially in ice. That'll help.
Reggie and Large Fry both have kind of the same question regarding ACL surgeries in today's world. He's talking about how he had one in 2010, took 12 months or more to get back to normal. Where Large Fry says, Doc, what do you attribute the accelerated returns from ACL injuries to? It seems like the athletes are returning to action much, much quicker than they were.
Well, there certainly have been some surgical advancements, so we understand the nature of how to do it better. Technically, we understand the physiology of how the ligament that we replace heals. We just know a whole lot more about it than we did 10 years ago. However, to say that the recovery in general is faster is probably not that accurate. There may be outliers that get back in 6 or 7 months, but the vast majority, and this is a whole lot of data that shows that the vast majority of athletes following an ACL recovery take at least 9 to 12 months before they physically can get back on a court or a field. But again, there's a whole lot of data that it takes an additional 12 months. So 24 months since the surgery for athletes to psychologically feel good about their knees and trust their knees and not hesitate to plant that foot in the ground and change direction. That's
Reggie, go ahead. Reggie has another question here. He says, is the allograft quicker versus grafting from the patella?
Great question. An allograft is quicker because you don't have to involve harvesting your own tissue to do it. An allograft is from a donor, a tissue donor. However, the process of which that dead tissue that you put inside the knee regains its own life and viability and strength is longer. So therefore, it should take even or allow even more time to recover if you use allograft tissue, because the revitalization, if you will, of that tissue is it takes longer, even though it's less invasive. Yeah.
Text on the Titanamar text line from James in Mobile, Alabama. That's a good question. Do they still use cadaver ligaments in ACL surgeries?
The answer is yes. Absolutely.
Can you pick somebody that was like really, really fast?
We used to actually kid around with the football players when we were using allograft surgery that we were gonna find a donor, that ran a 4.240 and put his tissue in your knee. But no, the donors are remain unknown. You can request that the age of the donor and most people do, should be under the age of 45 because the tissue that is being used is relatively young and strong. But as the popularity of allograft use goes up, the availability of allograft tissue doesn't go up necessarily. So there's a larger demand than there is availability.
This is a pretty interesting question from Brian on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. He says, can the training regimens of the all-season workout programs continue to increase injuries during the season? I've wondered about this specifically with Muschamp season, where we had a bunch of injuries in the conditioning program. Was it a contributing factor? Coach, I guess what he's trying to say is, Doc, is, football players, you have to train pretty much year round for 12 games or maybe 13 or 14. But it seems like, it's gotten more and more intense in the off season. These guys are in incredible shape, but do you think with training so much, could that cause more issues or no?
Absolutely. That if you don't train intelligently in the off season, if you overburden your body will break down just like a car or a bridge would break down. So potentially you can expose yourself to too much risk of injury in the off season. But having just said that, our strength and conditioning coaches in general, for the most part, are much more intelligent. They have a lot more understanding of science and recovery and the need to allow your body to heal after a workout. So at the end of the day, there are probably fewer injuries as long as the strength and conditioning and trainer program use the available new science to do it, and most of them do.
So Greg's question is, Dr. Pete, what do you think is a better option, the knee ligament replacement, the cadaver ligament or your own patella tendon?
Most people agree, and I'm one of them, that if you're under the age of 25 and play a high risk sport, your own patella tendon is the gold standard for reconstruction of the ACL. Once you get to be 30 or 35, then the option of using allograft tissue becomes a lot more attractive. So, for example, if you're a 45-year-old tennis player and you tear your ACL, an allograft is probably your best choice. But if you're an 18-year-old wide receiver, I would go with the athlete's own patella tendon.
Andy has a question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Dr. Peter, are you familiar with Joel Embiid's injury to the lateral meniscus, and is it advisable for him to play again this year?
I know that he had a meniscus repair, which if the tear is amenable to suturing, it's much better to have that occur rather than take a piece of the meniscus out. So taking a piece of the meniscus out will allow the athlete to return quicker.
You did that to me.
Yeah.
After the Florida State game.
But that knee is more at risk to develop wear and tear than if you suture the meniscus. And I'm pretty sure he had his meniscus tear sutured, and that usually takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months.
Well, you did a fine job on my knee because you took some meniscus out after the Florida State game, and then I played in the Sugar Bowl. I don't have any knee problems. I do have shoulder problems, Doc, and I wanted to ask this question. If a young man is in pain in his shoulder area, and he's probably got torn labrums and whatever else is torn in there,
Right.
rotator cuff possibly, do you suggest getting it fixed or just living with it as long as you can, living in pain if it's not prohibiting you from doing stuff?
Well, I would say the vast majority of times, you should get that fixed, even though it only hampers you to do certain things. There are such minimally invasive, highly successful procedures to restore the normal anatomy of a torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff that under most circumstances, it's best to have it fixed.
Text on the Titan MR text line from Sheila. She says, Dr. Pete, what do you suggest? I play a lot of tennis and have elbow issues. Should I get a cortisone injection in my elbow?
Well, you should try non-invasive things first. Those forearm bands, stretching, strengthening of your muscles around your elbow. Again, stretching your elbow, stretching the muscles around your elbow. You should try that. If all that fails, certainly a well-placed cortisone injection in the area could provide you with some extensive relief. There's all sorts of, I mean, it's a tough question to answer, just elbow pain. I mean, there could be a lot more going on than your classic tennis elbow. An MRI would probably be a helpful adjunct as to what it is and how extensive it is.
Ray on YouTube, brought to you by Quad Plum, says, Doc, losing weight and powerlifting, squats, deadlifts, and presses cured my back pain. What are your thoughts on using these methods to address pain? Losing weight definitely going to help your back.
Yeah. Probably of all the things you just listed, losing weight and maybe doing core strengthening exercises helped get rid of the back pain. Actually, squatting with heavy weights notoriously causes back pain. So of the things you mentioned, I would say weight loss and core strengthening are critical.
I've always wondered this, Doc, like, former football players, when they get older, they end up having a lot of different surgeries here and there. Could an athlete, we can use me, for example. I got shoulder pains. I don't have any knee pain, but I got shoulder pain. Let's just say I wanted to repair a torn labrum, and let's say I needed to do something to one of my knees. Could y'all knock that out in one surgery, both issues?
I mean, theoretically you can, but for example, if your knee surgery required for you to use crutches for a week or so, but you can't
that wouldn't be good.
Because you have your shoulder operating on. Yeah, you build yourself into a dilemma there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Doc, good stuff as always. We got time goes by way too fast when you're on here, but we'll probably get you on once a month or something. People love listening to Dr. Pete, and you could tell some Coach Spurrier stories about taking all his money on the golf course.
Well, we got all sorts of stories about Gator football, basketball over the past 30, 35 years, where I've been, standing in the corner of a lot of locker rooms before, during, and after games to hear what's going on.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we appreciate your time. We've run out of time, and have fun on the golf course, and we'll talk to you soon, Doc.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Love doing it.
That's Dr. Pete Indelicato, one of the best in the business. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. Tomorrow, JC and I will have our Super Bowl picks, and supposed to have another potential guest. We'll let you know. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.